we move into our first keynote address with Magnus Grimeland, who is the founder and CEO of Antler. Magnus, we are so thankful that Antler could join us. You could join us from Singapore. So over to you. Audience will be very interested in knowing. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, if we could start there.
Yeah, so hi everyone, great that you could join, and thank you, Namol, for having me. My background, I come from a small place outside of Oslo called Sande. Grew up there on the farm, went to United College for high school, and ended up in the military after in the Norwegian Naval Special Forces, Marine Commando. Went from there to Harvard. Interesting times because a lot of great new businesses came out of Harvard those days. It was 2003, 2007. Facebook being the biggest one, but lots of other exciting ones. And then after that, I joined McKinsey, worked in the tech practice, left McKinsey to set up my first company called Zalora.com, which is, it's Zalora.com for the people who want to look it up. It's the biggest fashion e-commerce company in Southeast Asia. We built that up to serve a region of about 500 million customers. It's still the biggest fashion e-commerce company here, profitable, growing really well. We sold the business in 2015. I stayed on for a couple of years and left to set up Antler, basically. And Antler invests in founders from pre-seed to Series C. We like to come in as the first money in to great founders. So if there are people here on the call who are excited about building a new business, we like to back you from day one. And we source for great founders all across the globe. So if you need a co-founder, we have a great co-founder network. We have a great advisory network of 700 people across the globe to help with product market fit, problem solving. We also come in with the first capital. We have great relationships with most of the world's best VCs and can make introductions for the next rounds, and we also like to partake in those ourselves. So we're a long-term investor that like to invest in our portfolio companies all the way to their exit. So that's ultimately what Antler is, and I can share a little bit more about that perhaps before I jump into what I think is a big opportunity right now to build great businesses. Does that make sense, Namol?
Yes, makes all the sense.
Okay, so
yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen. So ultimately, this is Antler's vision, right? We want to fundamentally improve the world by enabling and investing in the world's most exceptional people, building the defining companies of tomorrow. So if you're already doing that, please reach out. Or if you're considering to do that, we'd like to be your first backer. We have offices all across the globe. So we're currently in 25 locations across 6 continents. In the Nordics, we have an office in Copenhagen, in Stockholm, and Oslo. So anyone who want to come to the Nordics and build or are already there, go to antler.co and click apply. And the interesting thing about being global is ideas are currently, a lot of ideas within innovation are global. So a lot of the same problems people are working on solving in Europe, people are also working on solving in Asia and in the US and so on. So there's a lot of cross-fertilization in terms of ideas and helping create product market fit. Also, competency centers are global. There are some amazing competency centers in the Nordics, but within other areas, you have great competency centers in other parts of the world. Supply chains are global. So we can really help kind of introduce customers all across the globe, and competencies, and also capital has become global, right? Like Nordic VCs are investing all across the globe, but at the same time, US VCs and Asia VCs are investing very actively into the Nordics, so we can help facilitate that as a network orchestrator. We look at a lot of founders every year. I think we get about 50,000 applicants a year now. We like to back people with a tremendous amount of grit, drive, and also that has a clear spike. I think all of them can be developed as founders, and so if you're one of them or you're working on developing that, we'd love to back you. But as said, we also invest direct in seed up to Series C. So if you're doing a funding round, definitely reach out. But yeah, we really back what we believe are some of the world's most exceptional people from day one. We have a strong network, as I mentioned earlier, of we have a team of more than 200 people globally that supports our portfolio full time. We help you raise capital, hire. We have an internal talent network. So lots of support in kind of the journey of building a great business. It's much more than the capital that we can help with, but we are ultimately an investor. So we obviously want to invest in great people who will build amazing companies so we can deliver strong returns back to our LPs. Strong team, 50 partners globally, just some of the profiles here. In terms of the Nordics, we do believe that in the Nordics, there's a specific kind of focus where amazing founders are currently doing incredibly well. We are agnostics. We do invest in people who want to innovate within any industry, as long as it's a net positive impact on the world. But particularly in the Nordics, we believe there's a huge opportunity to build the leading companies in the future within this industry. So sustainable food, electrifying transportation, clean energy, industry infrastructure, carbon removal, quality education, good healthcare well-being, reducing inequality, employment opportunities. These are areas that we, particularly in the Norway, in the Nordic region, really want to address. So that's a bit about Antler. So I'm going to use the kind of last few minutes to talk a little bit about building the next unicorns in today's environment. So I find it interesting because if you look at 2020, 2021, people were deploying a ton of capital into venture capital and technology companies, and so many people wanted to go out there and build a business. If you look at 2022, things have changed a bit because of the macroeconomic environment. So people are actually thinking a little bit longer before they deploy capital, and then people are also thinking a little bit longer before they decide to take the step into build the next business, which is completely stupid, right? It makes no sense, right? The best time ever to start building a business is just after a peak, because then you're literally benefiting from the whole next kind of decade's worth of growth, right? It's always been like that. The best companies over the last kind of 20 years or so were started just after the .com or just after the financial crisis, and I think now, whether it's the bottom right now or the bottom next year, doesn't really matter. Now is by far, timing-wise, the best time to start a business. And if you're an investor, it's the best time to deploy capital into these businesses. You don't want to deploy capital at the peak, and you also don't want to start necessarily a business at the peak. You want to do it at this time. So that's kind of the number one reason why you should start something now. It's you're looking for a decade's worth of growth. So that's number one. Number two, for the first time ever, markets are truly global, right? You can serve and disrupt an industry from anywhere. Like Spotify is a great example coming out of Stockholm, obviously, where a couple of people took on Apple and won the music industry, which is one of the largest entertainment segments out there. The same is happening, in Sydney. You have Atlassian. You can go to almost any market and you will see a global business being built out of there that is disrupting a global industry. And we can do that now. You were never able to do that before. If you look at the airline industry, think about airplanes. From the first commercial airplane customer until there'd been 50 million customers on airplanes, that took 68 years. 68 years. And this is only like 120 years ago, right? Then imagine how long it took Pokemon Go to get 50 million customers. It took 19 days, right? And that's because they're serving a global market. So, and you can do that within B2C, you can do it within B2B, you can do it within deep tech. So world is truly global for the first time ever. You saw the bad side of that with COVID. You saw the good side of that with being able to scale businesses incredibly fast. Third point, the cost of building a business is going down drastically. Yes, there is inflation, but due to cloud services, app store distribution methods, lab-on-a-chip technology, portable labs, B2B SaaS sales models, so many different innovations and APIs you can plug into. The cost of building a business has gone down drastically. It used to cost $15 million on average to launch a second country when you launch a business. Now, I mean, a few of us on this call can just get together and literally launch an international business tomorrow for like $50, right? So now, obviously, as you scale this, it still costs money, but the cost relative to what it was in the past has gone down. The last point is there are so many exciting technologies maturing every year currently. If you go back a few thousand years back in time, you had hundreds of years being affected by one technological change, right? It could be the discovery of a new metal. If you go a few hundred years back, 100 years might be affected by a new type of boat. Or you go to the last century and you could have like 40, 50 years being defined by, for example, the computer. If you look at it now, there are new technologies entering all the time. Like you're just coming out of the lab and being used to disrupt any industry, really. Like whether it's AI, blockchain, gene technology, IoT, whatever it is, there's like a dozen technologies coming out there, which literally would disrupt every single industry out there. And it's happening right in front of us, right? If you look about 50 years back in time and you look at the world's 500 largest companies, on average, they were half a century old. Now they're 12 years old. So the giants of today, you are going to disrupt. And now is by far the best time to do that. I think it's the major message I want to give. We'd love to chat more about all the learnings from working with a lot of great entrepreneurs, but I'm running out of time. So, just reach out if there's anything. You can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter.
Thank you so much, Magnus. I think awesome message. Now is the right time to build right after the peak. I think that's great. You talked about the cost of business going down, the $50 model that you talked about. We'll get together and create something tomorrow. And you also talked about the strong pipeline Antler has globally. And on the global note, you talked about innovation is global. That leads to cross-fertilization. And so global being a big thing. So thank you so much for all those messages that you and audience. I suppose you're taking notes. We'll also this is also being recorded, so this session will also be available. Magnus, thank you for joining us. We welcome